back to the Metal Teddy Bear Experience here on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. This is your host, Chris, and I have a very special guest on the line. I have Anthony, the guitarist of Indestructible Noise Command. What's up, dude? How you doing today?
I'm doing well, Chris. How you doing?
Pretty good. Kicking off my show with some of your music, some of Hath, and it's been a pretty good day so far. I can't complain. It's been going pretty smoothly. How about you?
Nice. Yeah. It's going very well, thanks.
So I was actually just watching your video for Identifier, and which is off your brand new album, Terrible Things, which is out now. And I gotta say, dude, that was a really enjoyable video. I really enjoyed that. That was really cool.
You like that little shtick on the Bird Box, huh?
Yeah, that was, dude. Because we were watching it, me and my friend here, and we're like, dude, that's Bird Box. And then like we saw Boy and Girl, like, oh yeah, this is totally Bird Box. And how did that? What made you like spark that? You saw the movie and you're like, you know what? We're gonna make this a music video.
Yeah. Well, you know, when we wrote the song, we finished the album. We decided like, hey, what's gonna be the tracks that we're gonna push the most, or what's gonna have the most right out of the gate marketable appeal, if you will, as you guys would know in radio. So we decided to make a couple of videos, and we did one for Fisco Rec, which is the opening track on the album. And that was like a big house party. And then Eric, the other guitarist, said, you know, he had this idea where he said, you know, listen, I want to do something, do a take on that Bird Box movie I watched. It was like the most watched TV movie in like history or something with I don't know how many millions of people. He goes, why don't we do something like a spoof on that? And I, you know, at first I was like, I don't know. So he kind of spun his ideas out to the band, and we were like, yeah, you know, go ahead, run with it, whatever you think. And he hired some artist who actually hand drew all of that animation and put that video together.
Oh, it was very well done. I thought I got the point across great, and it's, you know, it's just a fun video for like what, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, I think it is. That was really cool.
Yeah, it's actually the video is a bit of an edited version of the song. Yeah, it's about 3 minutes long, I guess.
Yeah. And you also released, like you said, other singles as well. What made you choose like all these songs in like this certain order?
You know, I remember having the conversation back when we completed the album late last year, and like, hey, what's going to be the order of the songs on the record? And we started throwing out our ideas. And you know, Fisco Rec is just it's about a bar fight, and it's just. The whole album in general is a throwback to when we first started, and a real tribute. Like, it's real old school INC, old school thrash in a way, with obviously a more mature and modern spin on it, because that's just who we are this many years later. But it was we're like, well, what's going to be the lead-off track? And we're like, yeah, Fisco Rec was a very easy one, because it slams right out of the gate. It goes right into that punching rhythm, that driving thrashy rhythm, and it's very high intensity, and it's just galloping right out of the gate, and it carries the whole pace of the album.
What would you say is probably one of your favorite tracks off of Terrible Things?
You know, my guilty pleasure track off that album is Salmonella. I mean, I always said that, you know, to the guys. I'm like, I think that's the sleeper song on the album. You know, I know the guys really focused on songs like Fiscal Rec or Identifier or Declaration, because they have more of a hook to them, more of a radio-friendly hook, and still very, very heavy at the same time. But however, there's just something about that track, Salmonella, that is just crushing. It's got the speed, it's got the darkness to it. It reminds me of that intro riff is a little more. It starts out with a clean guitar. It's a little Slayerish, and it goes into like almost like a Black Sabbath-y vibe type of slower riff, and then the pace just ramps up into that crushing double bass with the thrash metal picking on the guitar, and then the solo slows down a bit. So it's like a nice ebb and flow of classic like heavy metal and modern day thrash metal.
Well, I gotta say, I love your track names. They're pretty fun. Salmonella, that was pretty good. Bonesaw Ballet, like you know, it's just awesome. Devil of Hearts, I thought that was fun. So speaking of your album, Terrible Things, what would you say you guys try differently on this record? What was something like you wanted to challenge yourselves with?
Well, I think This album wasn't so much of a challenge, so to speak. It was, I think, our last record, Black Hearse Serenade, we experimented more, if you will. And if you go back and listen to some of the stuff on that album, it was much more varied. I mean, we even had like more of a ballady type of metal song on there, which even starts out with an acoustic. Now, I thought that song was very well done and well represented, like what we're capable of. But however, with this record, we felt like, listen, let's just go back and celebrate how we got started. Let's go back and celebrate the reason why, we picked up instruments and started playing guitars in the original formation of INC, and which, do a throwback kind of like to the first two records, but however, it's going to be the modern version of that. And so the challenge would have been, I guess, more so in the sense of doing it justice for the fact that it's modern day thrash as opposed to the old school. But it was there was really not too many obstacles to overcome. Once Eric started writing and we all started getting our hands on the music and tweaking it to the way we wanted, it was very easy. This was the easiest album we've ever done, I have to say. It really came easy to us. Everybody contributed to it. It was a group effort that really just fell together quite nicely.
How long would you say like writing and recording took?
I'm sorry, say that again?
How long would you say writing and recording took?
So the writing took most of the year, believe it or not. So he started, I believe, back in January of 18. By summertime, late summer, we started laying down tracks. And we finished up the final mixes, I think, in October, November, somewhere, give or take that time frame. So by November, the album was complete.
Okay, so that's pretty smooth.
Yeah.
And you guys came out with 10 tracks. Do you have any B-sides or any leftover tracks you think you're going to release later on, a couple months later down the road?
No additional tracks were recorded during the making of this album. However, there's tons of music that we have in the cache, and the next album is already being written. We're constantly working on stuff and kicking ideas around. Now that we've kind of caught our stride, if you will, many people who don't know the backstory behind us is that, we had an early start, much younger in life. We were very, very young out of the gate when we got signed the first time around. And we played with bands like Pantera and Megadeth in their early days, and so it shows how far back we go. And then we took a lot of time off, decades as a matter of fact. And we just took a longer break than we ever thought we would. We stepped away, we established ourselves in careers and families, and then finally in 2010 when we reunited, that's where, we kind of had to find our way again because it was so long since we recorded together as a band. And now that this is the third album removed since we reunited, we really feel like we're hitting our pace here. This album truly represents the heavier, more refined INC of today.
Well, within that like time period, like you said, it was like 10 years or something. Did you guys like ever like send tracks to each other or say like, "Hey, I got something cool going," and like talk like that, or that wasn't?
No, we all, believe it or not, we all were involved in side projects on our own accord. None of us completely stepped away from music. We all played in bands, whether it was locally or filled in for other people. So we always had our irons in the fire to some degree. Now, however, we all remained very, very good friends, got together quite often, talked about the idea of reuniting. It just, for some reason, it just never felt right. We knew there was going to be a time. We didn't know when. The idea was always kicked around. We reminisced about the old days and the many amazing bands and players that we performed with and the opportunities we had. We never forgot that. And I think it was just a matter of time when, one day, Eric just woke up and in my inbox in my email was a track from him. He goes, "Hey, I just wrote a song. I want to do another album. Take a listen to this." And we were just like, "Yeah, let's do this. It's time." So that's kind of how that came to fruition.
So usually when I interview bands about their latest albums, I ask what they were listening to, what bands and what songs they were listening to while recording, because it's kind of interesting what bands say. Like some bands will say like the complete opposite, where they're like, "Oh, I didn't listen to anything heavy because I didn't want that to influence this album or anything." So what did you have on your playlist while recording Terrible Things?
Um, Now, listen, I'm deeply rooted in classic metal and classic thrash metal. Although I love most genres of music, even including a lot of hard rock and classic rock, as of late, or right about the time we were recording, I think. I was trying to get into that band Ghost, and
Oh,
because I
okay.
heard they had a big buzz, and I saw their imagery. Now I had seen Ghost before I heard Ghost, if you will. So I saw this band, and it's so funny how imagery or the picture of a band could conjure up a certain impression to yourself and what you believe their music's going to sound like. And then when I put on one of their songs, I can't remember what it was, it might have been Mummy Dust or something, and I'm like. Wow, this is nothing like I expected it to be. So it almost enticed me to dig a little deeper and figure out, like, how did they come up with this formula for their sound, as opposed to this like yin and yang. Their sound was so different than their image, and so I was a little intrigued by that. I was listening to them. I listened to a lot of Accept. I'm a big fan of German metal. Accept goes way back to Restless and Wild, Balls of the Wall albums as a younger man growing up. Those are the things that inspired me to play guitar and whatnot. So I was listening to a lot of the latest Accept albums, moving back from Teutonic. Blood of Nations, Stalingrad. Albums like that that just. I enjoy a lot. Wolf Hoffman as a guitar player. So I think right around that time I was big on that Accept run and venturing a little bit into some of the newer stuff that's a little more abstract, like Ghost.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how you mentioned Ghost doesn't sound what they look like. I mean, I feel like now they do because like their gimmick and you know how they are. But like
Right.
I remember I saw them back with I'm pretty sure it was Lamb of God back at Roseland Ballroom in New York City, and I heard about this band Ghost. I was like, oh okay, it looks like they're gonna be some black metal band, with all the
Right.
makeup and stuff. And I was actually surprised too. They did not look like that. So it's funny that you had the same feeling about that as well. But did you get really into them? Like you enjoyed their last record?
I do. It's definitely on my playlist, and it certainly has grown on me. At first, it took me a bit to. Well, listen. This you're hitting something really on the head here, and if you don't mind, I'm going to dig a little deeper into it. How when I was younger, growing up, and you actually there was no music piracy, if you will, in the sense of where you can go online and download an album. And there was no YouTube, before the dawn of the internet.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, I used to actually go in a record shop and discover bands by looking at the album cover and looking at the artwork and looking at the song titles. And most of the time, you had no means of listening to that song unless you knew someone who had the album or the cassette back in the day, if you will. I'm sorry to date myself like that, but you really didn't know anything about that band, so you kind of took it at face value and you said, hey, this looks really interesting, I want to know more about this, and you shelled out your hard-earned cash to buy that and put an investment into that band, and you felt like, hey, I have ownership in this project. I want to know. This is my hard-earned money. I want to know a little more. So you went home, you put the album on, you listened to it, and if at first it didn't knock you dead, you listened to it again, and you started reading the lyrics inside the liner notes. So I think a little bit of that magic is part of what really developed like true fans from back in the day. That's what we were, like true fans of bands and music, and we invested in them. It felt like we kept that investment for life, as opposed to today. Everything is like you just click on a button on your Apple iTunes account. You start to listen to one song from Ghost, and you're like, this is terrible. I don't like the way it sounds, or whatever. And then you dump it, and you have no real investment in that band. So I think if you give something a chance a few times around and start to understand, hey, why did they craft the song this way? What are they onto here? What is the message they're sending in their music? You start to dig it a little deeper, and I think you start to appreciate it more.
I think everything you said is very on point. Because there was an article I read a while ago. I forgot where it was, but they were saying how album art meant more back in the day. Because if
Mm-hmm.
someone was going through a store or something, they saw like a really cool album art, they were more likely to buy it or show interest. And same thing with lyrics and booklets as well. Because like, I mean, I'm a different time period, but I remember when I used to get CDs and I used to go through the lyrics and stuff, and like like the notes at the end of the album where they would thank whoever. and talk about stuff. I remember actually going through that, but now with everything being digital and Spotify and all that, you don't really do that. I mean, they do release it like a digital like PDF file with the booklet sometimes, but you know it's not the same going through it. So I definitely understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. And like I said, that was such a huge part of it for me. And I actually feel bad. The younger generation will look at you and say, "I don't know what the hell are you talking about." They'll look at you like you have a third eye. But you realize, hey, you're really missing out. You don't realize what you're missing out on. That was some of the best part, as almost as good as the music was the discovering the artist from the artwork and then the song titles and then reading those liner lyrics. And that's why, as Indestructible Noise Command, when we put our music out, we try to do the whole package with the CD. We try to get, artwork that's going to draw you in. We always put our lyrics inside of the CD and whatnot, so that it gives some other way for the people who do decide to make that investment, that they feel like, yeah, I get it. I like this. This brings me back to the reasons why I first got into, when I discovered music and got into buying CDs.
So now that we're talking about album art and all that, who designed your art and why did you guys go to the direction you did?
This is a great question. So the first two albums since we reunited, so 2010's Heaven Sent Hellbound, and then 2014's Black Her Serenade, was designed by Sam Sheeran, who's very well known, did Iron Maiden, Rob Zombie, did tons of stuff for many, many large bands, and did a tremendous job on our artwork. Really, really talented gentleman. You could find his work all over Facebook and whatnot, and many, many top artists. However, this time around, I remember Eric saying, he goes, you know what? He goes, I want to find someone who just, like a clean slate kind of guy who really not well known. I want to give him a crack at it. And I remember him searching on the internet, and he came across a guy. God, I don't want to mispronounce his name, or even if I can remember it. So I believe he's out of India or somewhere over there, and he actually had some artwork, and he gave Eric told him kind of, hey, listen, this is what we're kind of shooting for the album. He shot something over to us, and we said, yeah, that looks pretty cool. Can you make a couple of minor changes to it? And he's like, absolutely, I can do whatever you guys want. And then we said, well, we want to add some interior artwork as well, one for the CD cover and the inside jacket. He says, yeah, I have some ideas. So he threw that artwork together, and that's how it kind of came to be. We gave him some general ideas, and we kind of let him run with it on his own. So I apologize. I don't know exactly what his name is. He's a foreigner from another country, and I can't even recall what his name was.
It's all good. Anyone who's interested can always look it up on Google. And I know Discogs has it right now, but I can't pronounce it. But, yeah, that's great album art. I really love it. I'm actually looking through all this stuff now, the album, like the actual album art, like on the CD and the booklet as well. So good job right there. And so during my show, I asked 3 random silly questions. You ready to take part in that?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. Question number 1. What is the strangest thing you've eaten?
Oh, wow. God, I got to think about that, because I'm a real foodie, and but I'm 100% Italian. I'm born and raised like eating really, really good food. So strangest thing I've eaten. Oh, God. I would say eel. And that was with, when I went out with sushi with some friends, I ordered eel. So, and it was pretty good, I got to tell you.
I don't know if I would ever try that. That's like one of those things I would stay away. I'm actually not a sushi person, so maybe that's why too. I stay away from that. All right, question number 2. What is the what's like a fun prank you've seen on tour?
Oh God. So there's so I partook in this, I have to say, and I'm gonna rewind to way back in the into the day, the recording of the second album, The Visitor. We were recording at Pyramid Sound Studios in Ithaca, New York, where Anthrax records, SOD, all those bands had gone through there. And we had gone in, and we actually recorded that album in a 2-week time frame. We did it quick. But we were up there staying in a hotel, and I remember after a long day of recording, we got back to the hotel room, and our drummer, Gary, at the time, he goes and jumps in the shower. And I remember I took the blow dryer, and I set it up underneath his pillow. And I stuck the blow dryer under his pillow, and I ran the cord to my bed, which was next to his, and I had it ready to plug into the wall. I turned it on high and whatnot. So he comes out of the shower, and Gary always used to like to walk around with headphones listening to music. So even when he fell asleep, so he laid down on the pillow, and right as he's trying to fall asleep, I plugged in the blow dryer, so it starts humming and blowing underneath his pillow. And the other guys are cracking up. He finally sits up. He takes off the headphones. He looks around. He goes, "You guys hear that?" And they're like, "No, man, we didn't hear nothing." Puts his headphones back down. Later, I do it again. As soon as he sits up, I unplug it. And it must have went on for 10 minutes till he finally figured out he had a hairdryer underneath his pillow. So
That's pretty good. I would never think of something like that. I feel like I'm pretty basic. I'm like the guy who'd, put hide his food or something, or put his hand in water. Something like that. I keep it simple.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole host. I could go on forever about the antics being on the road and having fun. It's a blast. I mean, that's what the writing part is one of it, but we live to get out on the road and perform too and meet our fans. That's so important.
Well, that's why I like asking that question, because I feel like a bunch of dudes hanging out on the road for so long, something fun or ridiculous is going to happen sooner or later,
Absolutely, yeah. There's always pranks being pulled. Dennis, our singer, is he's a real comedian. Quick on a joke or an insult, for that matter. But Dennis, Eric, and I, like I said, we go back to high school. We've been friends. Actually, Eric and Dennis go back to grade school. They've been friends that long. And I joined up with them in high school. And then Dave, even our bass player, he was actually our roadie back in the early incarnation of the band, and now he's an official member of the band. And so we've been, we don't pull any punches. We're not strangers. We've been together almost our whole lives. So we have a lot of fun. We razz each other. It's a blast when we're together and out on the road, especially.
So it's like hanging out with family and your best friends.
It really is. There's nothing awkward about it. So we don't pull any punches.
Question number 3: if you were to have a movie about you, who would you cast to play? Who would be the actor to play you?
Oh, wow. Wow, that's a tough one. Jeez. Not that I'd be difficult to play, but wow, who would I pick? Jeez. I'm a real OCD kind of guy. I like my stuff in order. I like a routine. I'm a real neatnik. I'm one of those guys. So, God, who would fit that profile in Hollywood? I can't even think of it. Wow, you put me up. That's a question that's stumping me. I wouldn't even know where to begin. I don't know. I wouldn't even know where to go with that one. I'm sorry, you stumped me.
Hey, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a good one too that would be very organized like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? Maybe like a Keanu Reeves or something, because I'm tall. I have dark hair. I think he is too. Tall with dark hair. Seems to be a guy who has his act together, even in real life. So, and that's what I'd like. I've heard a lot of good things about him. Not only is he a great actor, I've heard a lot of good things about him. Excuse me, off screen. And I like to think of myself as you try to be a decent person in this day and age, and so I could certainly see someone like him as someone I'd like to represent me, so to speak, because he seems to be a pretty decent guy.
You said Keanu, right?
Keanu Reeves, yeah.
Yeah. He's a great guy. There's a whole online following of awesome things Keanu Reeves does, and just a list of everything. So yeah, he's a great guy, and I can't wait for John Wick 3. You looking forward to that?
I am, yeah. I've watched 1 and 2. Great movies. They definitely keep you on the edge of the seat. A lot of action in them. So yeah, number 3 should be great.
All right, so that concludes the random silly question segment. Thank you for participating in that. Always appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right, so you guys put out Terrible Things last month. You guys put out a couple of videos and stuff like that. What is planned for the future? What's looking over the horizon?
We're trying to secure some tour dates. We did manage to sign on with some booking agencies overseas. We're hoping to get overseas a bit and see what transpires over there. We do get a lot of fan feedback from South America, the UK, Japan. So those are places we actually have never been, believe it or not, and we've considered like, hey, maybe we should get out there and really. I'd love to see that part of the world. I'd love to meet people out there and the fans of music. Just going across the United States, for instance, and the difference. I don't know if people realize. We're on the East Coast in Connecticut. There's not a big, strong metal scene here. I mean, it's very underground here. But however, you go out west, and I remember one night we played back when we toured for the Black Curse Serenade album. We were playing like in Madison, Wisconsin on a Wednesday evening, and I remember the club had like 600 people in it, and I was just so blown away by that. And I remember pulling a couple people aside after that came up to us, wanted to meet us, and we were shaking hands. We were just having some nice conversation with people, and I said, "What brings all you people out here on a Wednesday? Isn't it like a work night?" Like, "Oh yeah, I'm a high school teacher. I have to work tomorrow." But we love music and we love metal, and it just showed us that those true fans do exist, and they put all the other stuff aside, and they truly support the scene. They truly support bands that not only have been around for a long time, they give up and coming bands a shot at gaining some popularity in their area by going out and supporting them. Even on a random weeknight.
Yeah, I've noticed that sometimes in our area we have Dingbats in Clifton, New Jersey, and you can tell like if you go to like a smaller band there or even like a bigger band, like the people there are very accepting of all the opening acts. Like they just don't like show up late. They're there throughout the whole lineup, and it's a pretty good vibe.
Yeah, we've actually performed at Dingbats, and great club. Enjoy it, and hopefully come back soon.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for taking the time out of your day to call in and talk about your latest record, Terrible Things, and, for participating in the Random Silly Question segment.
Absolutely. No, Chris, thank you, and thank you for what you do in, keeping heavy metal alive and going strong and taking and allowing bands like us the opportunity to come on your show. It's appreciated more than you know.
Yeah, no problem, and hopefully I'll catch a show next time you're at Dingbats.
Sounds good. Please do, and come up and say hello. We would like to meet you.
Will do, man. Have a great night.
All right, you too, brother. Take care.
Did you ask what the signs meant? From the streets to the government? Did you seek independence?